this is Catherine Ann Clement. Today I have with me Erik Archbold, who is a traveling minstrel. Reminds us of the Middle Ages when the troubadours used to go around to all of the villages. Anyway, I met Erik a couple days ago, and he had some very interesting stories to share. And since I am doing this series of interviews with people about awakening and their experiences and what that means to them, I asked Erik if he would share his story. So Erik, what does awakening mean to you?
Yeah, I feel a very deep connection with the word awakening because it feels like the purpose of our life is to become more conscious, I would say, become more conscious of everything that we have repressed, which has kept us in what I would call a dreamlike state, where we're only looking through a very small, narrow view of life. And awakening to me is I would say, the process of life itself, in which we simply become more and more aware of the grievances in our mind and the places where we've kind of blocked and sheltered our heart and tried to protect the vulnerable parts of ourselves. And I know for myself there's just been a series of events in my life that feel like they've been catalysts for awakening, for maybe not full-blown awakening in terms of enlightenment or anything like that, but definitely leading in that direction by opening my heart, opening my eyes, spiritually speaking, and just becoming more transparent. I would say awakening is a process of becoming more transparent, being willing to become more vulnerable, which actually ironically makes us more in touch with our invulnerability as spirit. Because I believe that's what we truly are, that we're not actually these bodies, but that we're actually pure spirit, and basically having a dream that we're bodies, and that this whole cosmos is part of that dream. So it's been a profound experience for me throughout life to just continuously open up to being more present and allowing my emotions to come to the surface more and more, and I would call that the awakening process, which is very, very disorienting at times and very difficult at times, and it certainly can feel like suffering as well, but it's actually continuously opening me up to greater levels of peace and understanding and wisdom and clarity, and I'm so grateful that it seems to be happening. I don't feel like I've really been doing it. It just seems like it's grace that has been awakening me gradually over these, especially the past 20, 25 years of my life.
And do you remember a time when you just had no clue what awakening was? When you became aware of this process or phenomena or whatever you want to call it, was it a sudden thing or was it a gradual thing, or what was it that started that awareness in you about awakening?
Yeah, I can remember back in high school being very clueless about anything spiritual, or I was just really concerned with trying to look good, trying to be more popular, trying to just get over my own self-consciousness. And actually, when I was in my senior year of high school, I was a pretty good baseball player when I was in high school. And I was on the varsity team, and I remember, I think it was my junior year, it may have been my senior year though, I forget now, but I went through kind of a crisis where I suddenly began to have difficulty throwing the baseball accurately, like even playing catch with someone. And I was like I was like an all-star pitcher, and I was good at most of the positions, but suddenly I was having some kind of something happened where I couldn't even, it was like that movie Wild Thing, where there's a movie where the catcher can't even throw the ball back to the pitcher, and he has to go through some mind training. But But I even had a coach at that time who was very much into Zen, Buddhism, and I remember him trying to coach me and saying, man, you gotta get into the flow, you gotta get into the moment and just relax. And it wasn't really working. And looking back, it feels to me like it was just a major upheaval time in my life where my mind was beginning to open up. And I didn't know it at first until my dad actually paid for me to go to a seminar called the Landmark Forum. And many of you have been through the Landmark. It used to be called EST back in the 60s. And it was incredible. I went to the Landmark Forum for teens. I guess I was 17 at the time, and it was powerful and mind-blowing. I remember, having this realization that my whole life up to then I had been constantly trying to be right in all my relationships and with my buddies and my friends, like getting into arguments, and that I valued being right above all else. And of course, one of the main principles they teach in Landmark is, would you rather be right or happy? Which is also a line that I encountered later in A Course in Miracles that is very much into being willing to let go of one's old perceptions. So when I was at the forum, the Landmark Forum, I went through quite an awakening where it just hit me of how much of my life I've been fighting and struggling to be right in my relationships, and how that's really hurt me and others. And they gave us an exercise to write a letter to someone that we feel we've hurt, so to speak, because of that. And I wrote a letter to my best friend at the time just saying, I feel like I've always been just arguing with you over petty things, and it's so stupid, and I really want to let that go. And it was quite moving. It changed our relationship in a big way. And then after that, I just became fascinated with spiritual books, and I started reading Don Juan, The Yaqui Way, a Carlos Castaneda book, and it was later I got into Celestine Prophecy, and it just kind of went on from there. And so there was definitely that point in high school, I think, when it felt like the crack in the cosmic egg of my head actually occurred. And yeah, I'm really grateful for my dad for introducing me to the forum at that point.
Mm.
That was like the first one. And then, there was some things that happened. It was a couple years later in college when, and I actually wrote a song about this next experience because me and that same friend, actually, we decided to try acid together, LSD. And I had done mushrooms, I think, a couple times with him or other people. But this was between my freshman and sophomore year of college. I was going to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and I was studying engineering, and it was very intellectual. But these drug experiences were starting to just open my mind, and I was into spirituality to some degree already. But what happened was that after a full day of tripping, basically, we stayed up all night just having a deep conversation and laughing, and it was light and deep at the same time, and just an amazing evening at his house, staying up all night. And then all of a sudden I looked out the window, and the sun was already coming up, and I felt incredible. I felt more alive than I think I had ever felt, or at least it felt that way. And I said, and I didn't really feel like I was tripping anymore, but I just felt so clear. And so I said, I think I'm going to go home. And so I left his house, got in the car, and began driving. And as I was driving, I started to feel intuitively like I was being guided. I instead of going home, I thought, I feel like this feels so good. I just want to drive out to the country. It was just a beautiful morning, like a Sunday morning, and I would get to an intersection and intuitively feel if I should go left or right. I just was kind of going wherever the Spirit was guiding me, although I wasn't thinking of it in that way. And then at one point I started having all these insights coming to me about the mind and about how we connect with each other and how we all have our own paradigm. And I went home and I grabbed a recorder and went back out on the road and started recording it all. And I actually, for a while, I thought, this must be enlightenment. I must be, maybe I'm enlightened right now. And when I finally came back home later after a long drive, my parents were there, and my mom was a bit worried. She could see I was so happy, and she said, why are you so happy? Like, did you do drugs yesterday or last night? And I was afraid of her finding out, so I lied. And I said, no, I didn't do any drugs. And then that lie just spun out and started putting my mind into kind of a state where I was hiding something, and then I started kind of having like a lot of fear come up and projecting onto her, but I was also at the same time going into deeper mystical states even after that, and I stayed in kind of what I would call a mystical state that was kind of fluctuating between perhaps what we would call manic depression, back and forth, for weeks after that. And I was actually scheduled to go back to Cal Poly for the next semester, and I did that, but it was very interesting. People were worried about me, and they were feeling like I was in a different reality, and I basically was. And for a couple months at Cal Poly, there were all these interesting experiences, and all said and done, I actually finally at one point began to feel like I was normal again. I think there was one morning I woke up in my college apartment, and I just realized that it was over, that I had just gone through 3 months of wild mystical experiences, and now it was over with. And I felt like, this is boring. I want to go back to that. Why is it over now? And so I started reading a lot of books on mystical experiences and how to get back to them. But one thing was a song that came through, and I feel like it was kind of the first spiritual song that I wrote. So I'll share this one with you. It was my call for peace of mind, and that's the name of the song, Peace of Mind. Take me for a ride. I'd like to see the other side before I go. There's just some things I really want to know. And will you tell me what they mean, all the strange things that I've seen before I die? So very long I've wondered why, all the things that make me think, and why I always seem to sink when I try. I only want to find some peace of mind, a little peace of mind. Chasing what I know is best for my soul. my wings are getting colder. I'm find it's getting easier flying. If I fly home every day, I will never lose my way. But still we find ourselves searching for the answers. Are they floating in the air? They say they're all inside. Would you please show me where? The lights that look like heaven, they blind you in the eye. But all your deepest questions that you ask will lead peace of mind.
That was beautiful.
Thank you.
So how did you end up being a traveling minstrel? That has
Yeah.
a story, I'm sure.
Yeah, that definitely has a story. Yeah, I started playing guitar when I was about 16, and I was mostly inspired to learn Beatles songs and, classic rock songs around the campfire. And I had a friend of the family who was a really good guitar player, a friend of my dad, high school friend of my dad's, and he would just play Beatles songs and get everyone singing along, and I just was like, that's it. I gotta learn how to do that. So I started learning then, but for the most part, through my 20s, it was really just like a hobby. I never thought of music as something I might do professionally or even as my main thing. I always thought I would probably be an engineer or something in the sciences or whatnot. I was pretty good at math and so forth. But yeah, it wasn't until 2008 when I had been studying A Course in Miracles for about 5 years, and I was starting to get very inspired by it. I was starting to read passages in the Course that say things like, once you accept His plan as the one function you would fulfill, there will be nothing else you need to concern yourself with. No stone will be left unturned. There will be no stones for you to trip on. Nothing will bar your way. Everything will become as easy and as right as breathing and being carried down a path in summer. And I really felt that in my heart. Like if I really just accepted that my only function was forgiveness, listening to the guidance and having no other agendas, really letting go of all worldly future agendas except present forgiveness, then everything would unfold beautifully. But I didn't have any real experience of that yet. It was still just a concept, and I had begun to watch videos and listen to a Course in Miracles teacher named David Hoffmeister. And you can look him up online. He's an incredible soul. He's just like this bright light. I would say if there's anyone in the world that I feel is actually fully enlightened, I would say he's it. And I began to ask him questions like, is this really true? What this book is saying, that I can actually just do nothing but focus my full attention on forgiveness and that everything will be taken care of, all my worldly needs. And he always would write back and just say, yes, 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 go for it. Just fully put your mind into this course and you'll be amazed. And so it was about 2008 when I decided to go to a 3-week devotional retreat with him. And yeah, the retreat was quite mind-blowing. I actually had a career up to that point. I had a hypnotherapy career for about 7 years. That was a whole other story where I went from engineering to hypnotherapy. But I had been doing hypnotherapy seminars for about 7 years and living in Austin, Texas. And it was a beautiful career for those years, but toward the end of the 7 years, I started to feel a little bit flat. Like it was it wasn't really my heart's calling anymore. I was really just doing it for the money and to try to maintain my house in Texas and all my credit card debt. I had like $30,000 or $40,000 in credit card debt, student loan debt. And I went to this devotional retreat with David, and at the retreat, it started becoming very obvious that this career wasn't really working for me anymore, and everyone else there could feel it. And finally, I sat down with David at the kitchen table, and I said, I feel like I'm meant to quit, just quit, just quit. Although I have a house, I have all this credit card debt, I don't know how that's going to work out, but I just feel like it's something I have to do. And he was right there with me going, yeah, I feel it. I really, really feel it. And I said, but what am I going to do? What will I do if I quit? And he said, well, let's just pray for a moment and we'll see what the Spirit has to say. And so we closed our eyes for a moment, and maybe a minute later he said, I'm hearing the words traveling minstrel. And at first I said, well, what's a minstrel? And he said, well, it's one of those like a traveling troubadour, like in the medieval times, like he said, traveling around, sharing songs, sharing stories, to lift people up. And as I sat with that and just sunk into that, I could feel my heart just starting to explode with little sparks. I felt like my heart was just going, yes, 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 that's what I want, that's what I want. A simple life of not trying to be rich or anything, just being willing to go where I'm called and serve through my music. And he said, your music, like, you're so skilled on the guitar and singing, and I think the Spirit wants to use that for the good of the whole of the universe. So so I didn't know what that would lead to. I was afraid I'd end up being on the side of the road as one of those homeless, begging for change kind of guys, but I could feel I had to do it. And it was that day or the next day I called my employer at the hypnotherapy organization I was working for and told them I was quitting. And I just went from there. I didn't know how the debts would be paid off, but I agreed to stay on with the hypnotherapy organization for for as long as it took to train my replacement. It ended up being about 2 months. And it was incredible. It was an absolute miracle, because during those 2 months, while training my replacement, about $30,000 to $40,000 of income came in, which was just enough to pay off all the debt that I had. And
That's wild.
It was just, and I had been trying for years to chip away at that debt. I was making really good money. Sometimes I was even making up to $100,000 a year for those past 7 years. Really good money, and I was never able to make much of a dent in all the debt, which is funny. It's like we always just spend whatever we have, and I wasn't budgeting well, and it was just weird that, it was like a universal law, like it didn't follow the rules of logic. There was something going on in my mind that needed to be healed. And once I fully said yes to this heart's calling of mine, all the money came in, even though I, basically was going to be without a career. And then it was probably a month or two after that when I felt like, well, I think I'm supposed to sell my house as well in Austin. And everyone told me it wasn't a good time to sell a house. It was a bad market for sellers. But I was guided to put my house on the market, and it sold in like 3 weeks. Mm. And once that happened, I remember walking in and signing the final papers to sign the deed of the house over and whatnot. And all said and done, I had about $10,000 in my bank account, and all my debt had been paid off. And I was just stunned. Like, this is quite a plan. I could not have foreseen this happening. And I just felt free. I felt like now I'm just free to serve God in whatever way comes in an inspiring way. I began traveling, and I got married 6 months later. That's another story. But basically my whole life began to transform in ways that were just unbelievable. I could not have seen it coming. And I just feel so grateful that I guess that I was ready to accept this guidance and follow it.
So would you say that that was part of the journey of awakening? Even though it's in directions you totally had no clue about.
Yeah.
Totally unexpected.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what awakening is. I think it's like we're, we can call it spirit or the Holy Spirit or our higher self or the angels, whatever we want to call it. There's like this higher intelligence that is looking at us and going, okay, you've got some work to do. Like, you think you're this little limited person, and I need to somehow convince you that you're not, and that you have a very powerful, an infinitely powerful mind. And I need to free you from all these false beliefs. And so A Course in Miracles, and I think all spiritual paths ultimately are aimed at helping to give us a context for accepting these miracles when they come. I would call what happened to me a miracle. It was just out of pattern. It didn't follow the rules of logic, really, of what someone would plan. Like, what's your financial plan? How are you going to pay off your debt? Well, I'm going to quit my career and become a traveling minstrel. And, oh, you think that's going to work, huh? Well, God told me so I'm going to give it a shot. No, it was unbelievable. And I just feel like that's how the awakening unfolds for everyone when unexpected things happen. And at first it feels like an affront. I would say it always feels like an affront to the ego. Like, no, this isn't how things should go. But the more we just surrender and be defenseless and let go and allow, then things unfold in ways we couldn't have expected, and that undoes the false beliefs around cause and effect. We have all these false cause and effect associations in our mind about, I need to do this in order for this to happen. But the laws of spirit and the laws of God are not bound by the linear thinking that we're so used to. So I feel like that's how the awakening unfolds for everyone. Through those kinds of experiences.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
So do you have one more song you want to share?
Yeah. I'll sing that one I sang for you the other day that in the group. It's called Just Relax, because this song was the first song that actually, this is another part of the story. Right after I said yes to this plan of becoming a traveling minstrel, all these songs started coming to me that were so beautiful and so healing. And the first one they were all for me, ultimately. Everything that Spirit gives us. I really needed to relax because I was quite scared of what would happen just being a traveling minstrel, and it broke all my rules about how you're supposed to be financially secure in life, and I needed some some comfort. So I remember one day sitting at my parents' house and just hearing the song coming into my mind and singing, just relax, go slow, and I just started writing down the lyrics, and then the chords came to me, and it became probably one of my most played songs. And when I'm in groups of people who know me, it's probably one of the most requested songs too. Just relax, go slow. There's no need to hurry, for there are no monsters chasing you. Just be still and let go. There's no need to worry, and there's nothing that you really need to do. Take time to look inside, for I can promise you there's nothing about yourself you need to hide. Take off the mask and let the light shine on your innocent face. You've never done anything wrong. There's nothing scary to protect yourself from. Your nightmares are over, you don't need to run. Just open your eyes and see there's nothing to fear. All of your nightmares have long disappeared. Seems a long time ago that you dreamed you'd left home and wandered outside in the cold all alone. You tried to make do with all your substitutes, but they could not erase the pain of forgetting the truth. Well, it's still in your heart, and it's still in your soul. Just take off your heavy armor and let it go. And listen to me while I sing you this song. Your friends are all here, and your nightmares are gone. There's nothing scary to protect yourself from. Your nightmares are over, you don't need to run. If you open your eyes and see there was nothing to fear, all of your nightmares had long disappeared. So just relax and go slow. There's no need to hurry, for there are no monsters chasing you. Right here, right now, you can be at peace. Only love is all around.
Thank you. Listening to that, I can't help but think of Claire Hartsong and I wrote a book called Twin Flame Union, The Ascension of Saint Germain and Portia. And in there, in big bold letters, Saint Germain said, freedom is spelled R-E-L-A-X.
Relax.
Yes. And isn't that's,
Yeah.
let go and let God.
Yeah. I liked also what the great mystic Janis Joplin once sang, freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose.
That's good too.
Yeah.
So is there any last thing you want to share before we end this session?
I just am so grateful for this path, and I just feel like my constant prayer is to be used by the Spirit in whatever way is most helpful. I love connecting with people, and I just feel like an open book. So I'm always available for connecting and just joining with anyone who's interested in going deeper on this path. It's I think awakening is a collaborative venture. That's another big key to it. It's we try to sometimes we think that we can just go to a mountaintop and meditate our way to enlightenment, and I think it really requires a lot of joining with people and facing our issues. It's really until we're at the point where we can't be triggered by anything that someone could say or do to us that we realize our invulnerability. And so I just encourage everyone, and always encouraging myself, to be more proactive in joining and connecting with others and facing everything through relationships. It's very powerful.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah, you're so welcome. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay.